If you were expecting a different airline or a different destination, please find another Zoom somewhere. I'm sure there's one. That would be good. So this is our February meeting. Thanks to everybody for being kind enough to postpone for a day. We tried when we set up the calendar for this year to avoid the town board's work sessions, but between Sue and I, somehow we didn't get that perfectly done. So we had to move a day, but here we are. Great. Oh, and Amelia has joined. Hello, Amelia. So I think most everybody has the agenda, hopefully. We're going to do just a slight adjustment of the agenda this evening. What we had originally up first is at 6:15 are the National Honor Society volunteer hour discussions, but I think given other pressing items, we probably are going to move that toward the back. But right after the meeting notes, while Amelia is on, just in case she has to do something else, I think we should just go over I think we should just go over the ground rules of what Amelia is going to need in order to put things on the website. So we'll do that. But first, before anything else, let's take up the meeting notes from January. Has anyone other than Sue and I had a chance to read them?
Yes, I did.
Good. All right.
And I'll make a motion to accept them as is.
Okay. That's great. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Apparently not. Good. Thank you. So I think, Sue, was this after our January meeting, but before tonight, that you and I talked on the phone with Amelia about the Honor Society volunteer hours?
I believe so. I don't have the
Yes, I
date here,
think so.
but I think so.
And what we figured out was that given the particular restrictive timeframes of hours of the day, weekends versus weekdays, and big blocks of time for AP testing and other such thing, these seniors at Mamaroneck High School who are part of the Honor Society actually have quite a big block of hours that we might be able to make use of. And I know that some of you have sent in your suggestions on things that the Honor Society might be able to do. But Amelia, maybe you could refresh for everybody what's going to happen once you get information from us. How is it going to be processed so that the Honor Society members can see it?
Right. So usually with volunteer opportunities and service opportunities, we usually do a sign up genius or some sort of form online that students can sign up for. And basically, if you give me something that you need people for, something like that, either you will provide it for us or I can help you with it so that I can spread the word. We usually give out information through Google Classroom and a Remind. So that's basically how we do it. Mrs. Nar, who's here, hi, how are you? She's been awesome, and we're excited because we're going to be working with her using a sign-up genius to spread the word about banning gas-powered leaf blowers. So that's an example of how the National Honor Society usually works in terms of service opportunities. And Mrs. Kaur, who's also awesome, hi. I know that she's also worked with us before with sign-up geniuses, and I personally have also volunteered for her awesome initiative. So I hope that clears the air a little bit.
So when we give you something, it will be helpful if we can give you an opportunity with specific days and specific times and specific numbers of people, or just days and times?
All three of those would be very, very helpful, yes.
Okay, and then how much of a description would be good to have with these?
That is a very good question. Just sort of a basis on what to do, and I'm happy to give a little blurb about what the specific initiative is about, if it is forwarded to me or if someone needs me to read up or anything like that. But simply like where to go and what exactly the to-do is basically most of the information that's needed.
Okay. Great. So at this point, from anybody at our meeting, any other questions, not about specific ideas necessarily for Amelia, but in terms of the kinds of information we'll need to provide her so that she can help us get the volunteers that we'd love to have?
Oh, I have a question about Emilia. Would it be helpful to give, you know, a short orientation, a Zoom orientation at all to the volunteers on, for example, what Love Your Food is or Healthy Yard, some of these, you know, so that students can understand the why and what are some of like talking points that they could communicate. I mean, I'm just wondering whether that would be helpful, whether there's any meeting that the NHS students have where it might be a, where we could have just a few minutes for that.
That's a great question. I do think that would be particularly helpful. I was talking to this before with Mitch and Miss Oderna about possibly having those recorded in case some students can't make it. So we can just post a recording so they can catch up on it afterwards. But I do think having a couple minutes or something like that would be extremely helpful. Yes.
So if we wanted to do something like that, what would you say? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes maximum? What would you propose?
I would say about 2 minutes to 3 minutes would be good.
Okay. All right. Because we should presume that the student, with some of these ideas that we're coming up with, that the students may know nothing about them whatsoever. Would that be fair?
I do think I think they would still sign up not knowing anything about it for the hours, but I do think there's a definite benefit to understanding what initiative you are helping and what you're actively doing. So I do think it would be super helpful.
Okay. And should we expect that if the students are volunteering for something, one of us, somebody on one of the committees or whatever, should always be available for them at whatever they're volunteering, as opposed to maybe just going and trying to volunteer by themselves?
I do think that the seniors are capable of doing it solely by themselves. I know recently there was a volunteer opportunity at the harbor and there were no advisors there, and I think it went really well. So I think not having an advisor is perfectly all right.
All right. All right. Any other questions about this one at this point? Okay. Well, Amelia, thank you. Please feel free to stay on. But we're going to go on to other parts of the agenda, and then hopefully at the end we'll have time to come back and pick up some of the specifics, because I know that the Love Your Food people have some things, the food scrap folks have some things, the tree people, that sounds a little weird, but nonetheless. The tree folks have some things that they're interested in doing as well. And I think, Michelle, you may have had some ideas also. Great. So the way we've organized the agenda is a little bit similar to last time, and this is a prototype for how we'd like to organize the agenda moving forward. So you'll notice that each of the agenda items starts off with what the priority that particular item is associated with. So tonight we have a couple of items for provide cleaner, more reliable energy, a couple of items for strengthen community health, and then one item for minimize waste and fight hunger, so to minimize waste. So as we go forward, the numbers of items will change, which priorities we're looking at will change, but that's the headline. Then we typically are going to try to get members of the collaborative listed in the second line who are going to speak to that particular item. And then you can see in the third line for each of these, there's some kind of goal. So whether it's a first quarter goal or a second quarter goal, what is the specific goal that this particular activity or effort is focused on? And then beyond that, what are some of the next steps that that idea has? So we may not have, Sue and I may not have done a very perfect job of translating what people wanted to talk about this evening into those. But as we move forward, hopefully everybody will think about this structure and help us fill in the blanks so we can have a more effective meeting. So first one up is cleaner and more reliable energy and some of the community emissions targets. So I think I'll start this and then maybe Nick or Frank, you can join in. Between last month and this month, Sue organized a conference call with Nancy and Steve, Sue and I think Nick was on, Mark Manually was on, and Frank was on. And we talked about updating and completing the historical data for the town of Mamaroneck's GHG emissions and energy use. And at that call, there were two aspects that needed some work. On the one hand, Sue and I are behind in our effort to create an RFP that's going to go out to service providers who might be able to help us with this. And on sort of Nick, Frank, and Mark's side of it, you guys were going to be looking at possible companies, websites, whatever it is that might be interested in receiving the RFP and then might be able to put in proposals for how they would help us fill in the blanks on all of this data. So Frank and Nick, do you have any update on where we are with some of those things?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I don't, I think we're kind of waiting on the RFP. But one thing I do think that might be helpful, and I guess I'll address this to Sue, is I know one of the groups that we're going to go back to is WeGoWise. And I think it might be helpful just to get an email out to them and or get some sort of communication on why we felt what they were doing for us before wasn't working, and to kind of have that, have a, you know, a dialogue. I think it probably would be helpful if we could put it in writing so that it would be, we'd have that just so that they, you know, they have an opportunity to say, you know, this is, you know, from their perspective, why it wasn't working. But because I do think they're an obvious group to go back to. I know Mark Manley had 2 or 3 people who he had in mind to go back to, one of which was Lucid, which which is now actually part of Acuity Brands, big company, but they were the ones that actually did the dashboard for the high school. So, and they're a good company. They're a lot more expensive than WeGoWise. But I think once we get that, you know, RFP, and I don't think it has to be a fancy RFP. I think we have something, you know, conceptual lined out. We can run it by, you know, even run it by, you know, WeGoWise to start out with, and say we know them pretty well. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Could I add a little something here?
Yep.
That recently we've been working with Lizzie Kaplan, who's on this Zoom tonight with us. She's working as an intern for the town, and she is a sophomore at Bowdoin College who is majoring in environmental, tell me again, it's not policy, Lizzie.
Just environmental studies.
Thank you. Anyway, we've been looking at renewing our designation with the clean energy communities and the climate smart communities. And it's very clear from the Clean Energy Communities program, which is sort of driving the bus by with NYSERDA and the state, that they prefer you to use the NYSERDA energy management system. So, and it is free, and it is what the state would prefer you to use for all of these programs. So Sue and Lizzie and I are going to look into that. And I think that, you know, that should really be our first step.
Nancy, I also started doing my own independent research as well on this subject as well. I think when I was looking at it from the perspective of, looking for grant funding, as also too was part of our conversation that we had about this subject. And I noticed that, yeah, this is one of the tasks in this case that, you can do in this case as part of becoming a climate smart community. And again, in this case, and getting points for that to go and basically show you're making, you're marching towards efforts to go and try and find ways to reduce your energy consumption and therefore emissions in your community. And I noticed that in previous solicitations, in which case you could apply for grant funding, I know that was one of them in this case, that in case I think you did go out and get some outside partners to help you with this, that it seemed like this is something you could apply to get competitive funding for. In case there is something that probably you want to do more comprehensively, if you maybe didn't go through the NYSERDA route that you were beginning to explore.
Okay, good to know. So Nancy or Lizzie, the NYSERDA energy management system, is that geared toward municipalities?
Yes, it is supposedly geared toward municipalities as well as others, but we haven't really explored how it works yet, and we have to find out. So it's really just the beginning.
Okay. All right.
I think the goal here, Mitch, is about trying to find a comprehensive tool that's going to look at all different types of aspects of energy usage within the town, right? So that's going to be your building stock, your transportation, municipal sites.
Right.
If it has that comprehensive look, that you can look at all those different types of end users, yeah, that might be something then also worth looking at as a free option.
Okay, good. Good. All right. So, Nick, you and I were talking a little the other day, and I know it's not exactly on the agenda, but last time we had asked you to, and you'd expressed an interest in checking up on the New York State version of PACE and comparing it to what you're working with in Connecticut. Did you have any observations you wanted to share?
Yeah, I do, Mitch. So I was able to comb through the documents more in detail because I knew just kind of tangentially about what their sort of new design of the program was. Being a neighbor to me in Connecticut, I was trying to get more abreast of that situation there. So, but basically, in looking through the documents, I mean, there's a lot of things that mirror my CPACE program that I manage for the Connecticut Green Bank. So I was glad to see that. But there were some hesitations that I actually do want to bring before the committee just to make sure they get documented in this case, because I have some concerns really about some of the programmatic design aspects of it, where I think it could cause some limitations to a property owner about how much they really could do in terms of how much CPACE financing they could then do in terms of an ultimate project. One, from a consumer protection standpoint that I have a little bit of a concern about, and then just other aspects in the municipal agreement that I think I actually had some specific concerns about. So in terms of like the limitation I feel like it could have on commercial property owners, and just to emphasize, this is just for commercial properties, not for current residential properties in this case. That's all the CPACE program here in New York does. Right. They have a statutory requirement in this case where it's in the enabling legislation that they cannot do anything more than 10% of the property's appraised value in terms of a CPACE project. That might be a very severe limitation in terms of them what they can actually get done in terms of a project. And if there's a point of comparison in my CPACE program, Connecticut, at least in terms of projects we finance, we can allow 35% in terms of the property's appraised value. So that's a big distinction in terms of the sizing of the amount of CPACE financing that can get basically placed on the land records of the property in this case with how this program works. So that's one concern that I had, just about limitations on really how comprehensive the projects that they can get done in this case with that as a requirement. So that's one. Two, they have what's known as a cost benefit ratio requirement, which is more on the programmatic level, which is this kind of similar to my CPACE program. We have what's known as a savings to investment ratio, which is actually, that's a statutory requirement in Connecticut, that is a requirement that has to be met in terms of the economics of the project, that the savings that they're getting from doing the project is going to outweigh what they're repaying on the CPACE financing. But in New York, they don't count in as part of the cost portion of that ratio the interest payments that the property owner is going to make, not any other fees that are also associated with the what could get charged on the financing in this case. Because in my program, we do account for all that in our SIR requirement, but in their cost benefit ratio, they don't account for those kinds of costs. So I'm just a little worried from a consumer protectionism standpoint that we're not accounting then for all those potential costs that could be factored into having to be repaid for by the savings of that particular project, and that you might be coming up really short in terms of making sure all those costs are being accounted for. So that was really kind of a consumer protectionism issue that I took with the design on that aspect. And then on the municipal agreement, I had some concerns in here about that. One, I noticed that because previously the municipality had to be the one to pay for basically any delinquent liens and obligations that were not paid by the property owner to make basically the lien holder whole at the end of the day. But now they've transferred that obligation, it seems now, over to the capital providers who would actually be lending on those transactions. So I'm sure capital providers were consulted on this when they were redesigning the program previously, but I actually maybe want to talk to some capital providers to get their sense about how they feel about that, because I'm not really sure how they really felt about that kind of provision now being put on them. And that then after the fact, they can then foreclose on the property in this case to reclaim any of those delinquent payments that they themselves made themselves whole for in the past, which again, I didn't quite understand that, but I'll see maybe if I can talk to a few capital provider partners who I know who are actually opted into this program and ask them their feelings on that. And then the other aspect that I had some concern about was that the Energy Improvement Corporation actually does have the right, apparently, to sue the municipality if any aspects of this agreement, in this case, are not upheld by the municipality. We don't have that in my Connecticut program. We don't give the Connecticut Green Bank the role and the responsibility to basically say, we're going to go sue an opted in municipality if they don't honor a particular part of the agreement at any point. But the fact that EIC reserves a right in this case to be able to sue the town of Mamaroneck if we, for some reason, didn't get something in this case completely enforced, when we were basically administering the program on our local level, I just had some pause with that in this case and trying to figure out, well, what potentially could you be sued for? What sort of material breach in this case or kind of, injury could they possibly be wanting to get a lawsuit in this case in place that then they can come and pursue a legal action against the town in this case. So I raised that as a red flag being in this municipal agreement. And, that's something I could certainly follow up with, Susan Morth or, with the other representatives in this case in the program to simply ask about that. But those were certainly just the main things that I noticed in my review that I had a little bit of trepidation about. But I mean, the programmatic design things, I don't think we can do so much about. But a couple of these things in a municipal agreement, I actually have a little bit of concern about.
So Nick, that was really helpful. And I can't believe you're not on the payroll as our energy consultant for, legal energy consultant to review contracts. The contract will be reviewed by our town attorney. And I'm sure that he will find number 4 that you just highlighted as well. And if that's the case, I doubt that the town of Mamaroneck will go forward with it because that is too much of a liability that I think the town board would feel. The other is, there's nothing we can do about it. That's the way the program's set up and we'd have to live with it. It's better than nothing. It does still offer these commercial owners an opportunity to do some environmental renovations and sustainability renovations. But I'm hoping that I will have a time frame in the next few weeks of when our town attorney will be reviewing the document. And I'm hoping that we do go forward because we're one of the few communities who haven't signed on to it. And I do think we have some commercial buildings in the community that really would be able to take advantage of it.
Oh yeah, fully agree with that. That sentiment, those sentiments, Nancy. And I think at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that the municipal agreement could also be, up for negotiation with EIC, and that because we actually are pretty flexible with the Connecticut Green Bank. We actually negotiate.
I doubt it is in New York, at least from our experience last time. We had some serious problems with parts of the agreement, and they said basically take it or leave it.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So maybe they've changed. I hope.
Well, I
Michelle, you have a question?
I thought that they had removed the liability of the municipality.
Yes,
That's
the
a lump.
municipality no longer has to pay the delinquent payments. That's what Nick mentioned before, that the capital providers actually have to go after them instead of the
Right.
municipality. And that was the difference. That was the hang up last time. So they have corrected that. But if they still have the ability to sue the municipality, I don't know. I have to hear what our town attorney advises.
Right. And is this just for commercial properties and not
Yes.
residential?
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
Oh, we have lots of residential homeowners who would have loved to take advantage of this.
They can't.
Oh, well. And Nick, the restriction on 10% of the assessed value, so appraised value. So what that means is, let's say there's a property like the Stop and Shop. And the Stop and Shop, you know, on behalf of their utility bills, would love to do something to lower their energy costs. But they're a lessee, or at least they've always, I understood them to be a lessee. Does this mean that this program would not apply to them?
Well, I mean, if there's a proper property owner and landlord of the property, I think normally what would probably happen is that it's the landlord and property owner that would probably have to take out the financing in this case. I'm gathering it probably works very much the same way in this program as it would in mine in Connecticut. So yeah, I mean, in the end, it's just more, will the landlord and the property owner be comfortable to say, well, listen, lessee, I'm going to go and do this project in this case, but I'm not going to get any benefit out of this. Only you as the lessee are going to get the benefit out of this at the end of the day. And it's just a question of, you know, will they find that they're okay with doing that? And yet then it's going to be the landlord who's going to be taking on the responsibility of the payments of the CPACE financing. But unless there is some kind of agreement already within, say, their lease agreement between Stop and Shop, say, and then whoever the proper landlord of the property is, that allows maybe, say, for the passage of tax payment responsibilities to basically the lessee, maybe there's a way they could work it in that then maybe the Stop and Shop will then be the ones then who then take on the responsibility of the CPACE assessment. They'll pay that to the landlord and then basically then passes that through the tax collector.
Got it.
So that might be a way to get around that particular, you know, when it's always like a split incentive, you know, related problem.
All right, good answer. Anything else on this one?
No, I think that was it for the time being. You know, like I said, I'm happy to follow up with the program just on some of the concerns that I had in this case. And, you know, I can run interference on that question about, you know, the issue with regard to, you know, the ability of EIC to sue the town and maybe see if that is a point of negotiation at a future point.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the next part of the agenda, which is also cleaner and more reliable energy. A couple of weeks ago, representatives of the LEC, I think Sasha and Lisa were on, Ellen Silver from CFTE from the village of Mamaroneck, and I joined a call with Claire and I think Maria of Sustainable Westchester. So far, so good, Sasha?
That sounds right.
And the purpose of the call was to hear about two Sustainable Westchester programs that are targeted at primarily at residential homeowners, although not necessarily exclusively. And that would be fairly low-hanging fruit in terms of adopting or agreeing to sign on, and so we wanted to find out some more about those. And the two programs are, and I think you've heard Nancy talk about one of them before, most of us, which is Community Solar, which is the Sustainable Westchester program, and the other one is called Grid Rewards. And what's true about Community Solar, as Nancy has explained in the past, this is a simple residential sign up. What it does is it plugs the homeowner into a group of other Con Ed customers. And together those customers then get assigned a solar project. And through the fact that we are signing up to be part of this solar project, those customers get an automatic discount off of their Con Ed bill. So it's not like you necessarily get the electricity, but by supporting the idea of solar in the region, then each of those customers gets a discount off their bill every month. Nancy, is that an approximate explanation? Okay, we can't hear you, but we'll take that as a yes.
Yes, it is. It is.
I think it's a 10% discount. Is that right?
Yeah, it's up to a 10% discount.
So the other program is also through Con Ed, and it's called Grid Rewards. And the notion is that Con Ed is interested in signing up customers who, when it gets hot in the summer and when people want to use air conditioners and when Con Ed in those kinds of situations would normally have to fire up some of its older or dirtier power plants to handle those peak demands. Con Ed, on the behalf of having these customers, would be able to turn to them, ask the customers to reduce their power demands, and by that effort, avoid having to turn on the old dirty diesel generators or whatever it is, and therefore be able to save itself some costs. And in doing so, as I understand it, and help out Sasha, then Con Ed actually then pays the customers who have signed up a certain amount of money on behalf of any kilowatts of demand avoided. Is that correct?
That sounds right. That from what they explained, you get a rebate, you get money back. So you can get up to, because someone said up to $700 in one season, that they were able to save by being on these grid rewards.
I have
But
one
more
friend-
likely, yeah.
Yeah, I have one friend who's just a fanatic about it, and he actually got $1,000 back.
Ooh.
But he's fanatical.
Maria said she got like 150, but even 150 is great, and it's better for the environment because you're not using the energy if you don't need it. If you don't need it, you're not asking for it.
So we
Can I
have
ask
this
a
discussion.
question?
Hold on a second, Mark. So we have this discussion. We talked through it, and these are clearly programs that anybody can sign up for at any time. What we learned, the two villages and the town learned during Solarize, is there was nothing like having a deadline to force people to think about something actively and then maybe to sign up. So we talked through that, and what we learned from Claire was that although there are solar projects coming on board almost every month, it always takes a couple of months after somebody signs on to get hooked up with a solar project, the project comes online, and then the benefits start rolling back. So it's not like if we called up tomorrow, we'd start saving money 2 days from now. It might be 2 months or 3 months from 2 days from now. So the notion on community solar is that the sooner people could sign up for that, the more sure they would be of getting into the program and getting the savings when the sun was higher in the sky and creating more electricity, certainly in the summer months. And then similarly for the grid rewards, I think Sasha, Maria got back to us the other day and said that the sign up deadline for grid rewards was April the 1st. Is that correct?
Yes, we had all talked about possibly doing a big kind of push for Earth Day and doing this into April, but it looks like that one program does need to be signed up by April 1st. So maybe we want to rethink how we would promote this if we do it.
So the three organizations, the Collaborative, the LEC, and CFTE, left the call. We had a call the next day. What do we think about this? Is this something we can really do? And then I think, Sasha, LEC got back to Ellen and I think earlier this week with your thoughts. Do you want to share those?
Yeah, I mean, what we liked about this is that it's, as Mitch said, it's kind of low-hanging fruit. This is something that's very easy to promote, and Sustainable Westchester is really happy to kind of package it for us. They'll put together, a little blurb. We can post it on Instagram. We can put it in the community news at the high school, the school system. We can put it out with our town and village newsletters. I think Mitch was really enthusiastic about trying to promote it a little more, maybe have a date, maybe say, let's try and get, 500 signups for Earth Day. In terms of Village of Larchmont, we don't quite have the volunteer power to do much more than push it out, but we're happy to support if there's more than a push out that we want to do. If the 3 municipalities wanted to try and do something slightly more comprehensive or a little meatier than just an info push out. But I think at a minimum, we could all get this information out at the same time to our community, so they're hearing it from different sides within our community.
Right. Mark.
Mitch? Yeah, there's been a program with Con Ed that doesn't reimburse you, where they take control of your air conditioning, basically the thermostat, and they raise the thermostat in the summer every time that they need additional electricity, but there is no rebate. I've been with that program for probably 8 or 9 years. And this is something different because you're saying they actually pay you to turn off the air conditioner. Is that correct?
Yeah, Nancy, can you chime in here? Because I joined late, so.
I think that's right, Mark. I think that this is a demand response program where they're really interacting with you and measuring what you're doing for them, and giving you rewards for turning the AC back or the heat back.
It seems like a no-brainer because they take control of the thermostat when they need power, whether it's cold or hot. They have the right to, if you've signed up, to turn it up or turn it down, depending upon what season it is.
Right. It's usually just a few degrees though, like 2 degrees, I think.
Oh, no, they literally turn it off. So in the summer, if it's a heat wave or something, and you've got it set at 78, they'll shove it up to 90 so it doesn't run at all for a number of hours. They'll depending upon demand, they'll turn you off for 4 hours, bring you back on, cool the house, turn you off again.
So
And they
Nancy,
don't ask.
Nancy, does is the grid rewards, is it something that do you control your air conditioning? Does the resident, or is that what Mark was describing in his program where you're relinquishing your control to Con Edison and letting them operate it? Is it?
I think it's you control it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And so then the other thing is, do you know what they does the savings that they earn, do they establish a baseline that was the previous summer? So if the previous summer, your house was normally using, a certain number of kilowatt hours that, in 2020, the 2021, if you're able to use less than that, that's where the savings, do you know how they measure?
Yeah, I don't know what they're using as a baseline to measure the savings, whether it's that moment's cost of energy or your previous use or what, or an average, I don't know.
Yeah, Sasha, I don't think Maria really got into that very much, did she?
You're muted
again.
Sasha.
Sorry, I'm looking right now on the Sustainable Westchester website. See if we have, I can give you any more info on that. I've had a lot of meetings this week, so I'm a little like,
Yeah,
grid rewards. Let me see if I can give you guys any more info. Sorry.
In a commercial market, is they do have a baseline for the previous year, and you volunteer for it, and I think most of the programs now do not penalize a landlord if they don't hit I think they're supposed to estimate the amount that they think they can do, and then they will be compensated, but I don't think they're penalized. There are two different programs. One is a Con Ed program that'll give you money. The other is through the New York ISO. So this is
all right. Here's what it says. Grid Rewards is a free award-winning app that connects you to your Con Ed electricity usage and enables you to earn cash rewards for reducing your electricity usage. The app provides information about your energy usage, tips, and recommendations to reduce it. Importantly, the app is tied to Con Edison's demand response program, whereby the app alerts you to the peak or high demand energy use in your area. During these peak times, you can earn cash rewards for taking simple energy actions. And then there's more. I put the link in there. So if you guys want to, there's no fees to
Okay.
join. The app is 100% free.
There's
There's
no
no
penalty.
penalties for non-participation or cancellation.
I mean, I think it's great. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would feel the way I do, which is I'm not, Mark's program's great that he's doing it, but I wouldn't want Con Ed taking away my electricity. This one is all volunteer. Voluntary is
You
great.
can't override it, Frank.
I do that program too, Mark. Sometimes my nest goes down. It's really cold in the house. And I'm like, wait a minute. And you turn it back up again. You're like, oh, someone turned down my nest. But
with future research, by the way, with this initiative, I'm hoping it can be just also more than just for, homeowners in this case, single or two family type properties. Maybe let's also see if it can also be beneficial for multifamily properties as well. I mean, when you got people in this case who've just got through window air conditioner units or any kind of other, like just, very inefficient, cooling systems in this case, in those types of apartments, it can really be, energy drainers in this case for those people in this case. So, I mean, I wonder too, could that be a benefit for multifamily type properties as well?
do I
So
need let me
Nancy,
see.
actually, this is something that we're going to go back and ask Maria about, because the way it was depicted is that this is about Con Ed customers. So for instance, it would be great to be able to tell the clubs who are by and large Con Ed customers that they can play.
It depends on what the threshold is, though. I don't know if, I bet it's small business and residents. I don't know if it pertains to any other larger scale residents.
Right.
And the person to speak to is really Claire, not Maria.
Oh, she does grid rewards as well?
Yeah, she should.
Okay. We didn't get that impression last week, but that's okay. Good to know.
Well, we can get the full info, but I think needless to say, both of these are very easy opt-in options for our, for our community, and we'd like to make sure that it's promoted and offered out to them. And I think community solar is especially nice because that you don't need to have your own house for that, or a solar panel on your roof or anything. Any resident can opt into that. Obviously, grid rewards, you need to be a Con Ed person, but.
Right.
Can I just remind folks too that the town of Mamaroneck is about to embark in construction of a community solar project in the community on the roof of the Hommocks Ice Rink. And that is going to be marketed to low and moderate income folks in our community first, before it's then opened up to others in our community. So we're really excited about that, but we don't want people to think that they're buying a solar panel on the roof of the Hommocks Ice Rink.
One little panel.
Nancy,
So on this
Put your name
one,
on it.
Yeah.
is there anybody in the meeting at the moment that would like to try to help out on this, work with Sasha and Lisa and Ellen and I? Can we get
I think Lizzie Kaplan would.
well, okay, Lizzie's good. Mark Kramer, might you be interested, or you, Nick? Do you have any time to help
Well,
out with some
it
of
sounds
this?
like you have a dearth of support, or at least hands on the ground, or to go and help in the village of Mamaroneck. I live there as well, so I mean, I'm happy to lend some additional support if you need it.
Okay, so, and Mark Kramer, what do you think?
A minimal role. I'd like to help develop the alternate, a chart that gives you what the different programs are.
Right.
Because I'm also Sustainable Westchester, but not solar, and I don't get a discount. I just pay a lower rate. So there are different tiers of all these programs that I think should be made straightforward.
They actually layer though, Mark. You're not excluded from participating in them. They can actually layer and build on one another.
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, good. So I will send there's a call tomorrow afternoon. Is it tomorrow or yeah, tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow afternoon.
Awesome.
Lisa will be on that one, Mitch.
So I'll send the invite around to Mark and Lizzie and Nick. It's toward the end of the afternoon, I think.
4
o'clock. So if you guys could join, that would be great. I know one of the things that we do want to get back to Sustainable Westchester on is we need testimonials from customers who've been successful for both of those programs.
Great.
Okay, the next, we're going to move on if that's okay
Hey,
with
Mitch.
everyone.
Mitch, one quick thing before we go off this subject. I have a question for Nancy. For our community solar on the Hummocks Ice Rink, we have, as a quick update, we did have our first presentation to the high school students or Hummocks students. And so as you remember, there are two sort of non-economic benefits we're trying to realize from this project. One is to educate students and the community. And so the developer did provide one quick update, and the students are going to think about how they could get more involved. And but then the other on the LMI, my question to Nancy, have you guys, or do you know if you or Steve have been in communication with Sustainable Westchester about the LMI outreach? Because we have a relatively tight window that we have to reach out to them. And Nina Orville was going to be the point person for that. And she obviously
She is, and we have met, and we have gotten it going, and she's gotten information from us for outreach and for contacts. And they had a meeting. I'm trying to think who else was there, but she's on it. They're on it. They're starting the project.
Yeah, if you need either my help or Mark Manley's help, I mean, those, we've all spent so much time on this. We'd hate this, we want to make sure that part of it is as successful as possible. Hopefully we get 100% LMI sign up.
Right.
So,
so we've given her the Hummocks Park Apartments. We've given her all the sectors that we think would be an ideal place to start looking for the LMI residents and to reach out to them, and the whole program of how to reach out to them.
And that's great. Thank you. So we're going to move on to strengthen community health and the tree program. So I'm hoping that Arlene and June can help out on this one. There are two things in the meeting agenda. And I think Arlene is going to talk about this notion of a one-pager for the tree canopy restoration and white paper. But the other thing that came up when June and I presented the collaborative's priorities and programs to the town board work session at the end of January was they asked us to come up with a new name for the program. So I'm hoping that we'll hear a little bit about that this evening as well. So Arlene and June, over to you.
All right. Well, as far as the name, that's probably the biggest project that we have going here, selecting the name. But we will have that because we have another meeting next week, so we will have that for then. We started with 19 names. We've whittled it down. We have 5. We made some changes because there were a couple of discussions about it. We will have that in a week. I didn't want to make the final decision, so I really wanted that to be a community thing. So we will have that in a week. And as far as a white paper, Mitch, I wasn't sure what you wanted in this. So, I mean, I have for the first quarter, some of the things that we're doing, some of the things that we've worked on. But as far as, we'll have to talk about that, about, what goes into this white paper, what do you want included in that, and where it's going exactly.
So I think that how this came about is that, as you know, because you two were some of the people who really got this whole idea started, that the loss of tree canopy is a serious issue. We all recognize it when we remember 3 years ago or 5 years ago on our block and there were more trees and now there aren't. And clearly something needs to be done and we all agree about that. I'm speaking for Nancy, but I know she's going to chime in here any second. I think what we're looking for is a white paper to go to the board, first of all, and then go to the community to say, hey, this is an issue. And this is an issue that needs immediate action. This is something that we don't have to wait for the comprehensive plan for. And this is something that we want to build support for right away. But Nancy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, Arlene. Like, as we talked about the other day, literally just tell us how many trees have been removed or came down in the past 3 years by each year, how many were planted by each year, show that there's been a net loss of tree canopy, and then a paragraph of all the incredible benefits of trees to the environment and the community.
Okay.
And voila, I think that makes the argument. And that, you know, the Sustainability Collaborative and the Tree Committee are interested in working on improving that, so that we need to change our tree policy in the town. We need to enhance it. We need to beef it up. And I think that this would be a great way to start us thinking about it. You know, we are about to embark on the update of the comprehensive plan, if we ever live that long. And I'm hoping that, you know, all of you will come out screaming and yelling in your nicest voices about how important trees are, as well as every other sustainability issue. Because the town board members and the members of the steering committee of the comprehensive plan really need to hear it loud and clear, so that we can move forward with improving policies. But even without, you know, going through the whole full-blown comprehensive plan update, I think by presenting that kind of basic information, you know, I could make a real argument for saying we've got to start improving that policy now.
As
where do we get
usual, I've got the same, I say the same thing for just about any other program. We need I think we need an objective. What's the mission? What's the purpose? And that needs to go on top. Otherwise, we're talking about, we have some needs and we got a problem, but we don't really know where we want to go.
I think the mission is increase the tree canopy.
Right. Right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
It may
think
be
you're right.
even more it may be even more general than that, right? The mission may be more general than the tree canopy in order to bring in the other environmental issues. I think that the conversation with Ron, was it yesterday, day before,
Right.
about what they did in Scarsdale would be a good lead into, we want to explain what the mission is and why bother, right? And what all the benefits are for the trees. That I think we can almost do with our eyes closed. How many trees have come down and how many are planted? I don't know if we can get our hands around that information, or is that doable? We can?
Because the Tree City Arbor Day Foundation requires a report every year on that number.
Great. So I think I'm happy to help you with this, but I think, you know, he was talking about conveying the mission and that everything that we do comes back to the mission. You know, and George keeps saying, what's the mission? Let's define the mission. But I also heard from Ron that it's really critically important that we stand up and be seen and speak to that this is important to us, that it's not just a matter of working behind the scenes. But when I left the meeting, I said, you know what, I'm going to start going back to meetings and be there and speak and let them know that there is public support for what we're doing, you know, because we certainly are invested with our time on the issues, right? Everyone here is working on something, right? Let the board know, let whoever, if it's the comprehensive plan, what did you call them, Nancy? The comprehensive plan?
It's the update of the comprehensive plan.
But is it a group that just deals with?
Oh, there's a steering committee that's going to be working with the consultant on it. And there's going to be lots of public outreach.
Because there were so many ideas that Ron had about how they pursued really making some changes in the code, which is, Mark and I were talking about it before, is so basic. We need to make some adjustments to the code if we're going to be able to help the situation.
If I can make a quick comment actually on this, even though I'm not involved with it, but just to put more structure around a potential goal or something that you might try to work towards. I mean, everybody looks at 2030 is that critical year, right? It's the point of no return. We don't do anything really now. Between now and 2030, we're going to be lost forever on the climate, crisis at the end of the day, right? So would it maybe behoove the town, when you're thinking about doing your update to the comprehensive plan, put in a goal that gets you to 2030 about how many trees you want to have planted within the town to lead to helping with carbon emission abatement. And then basically then just get yourself toward that goal over the next 9 years that are left to get you to 2030 at the end of the day. And I don't know, I mean, be bold, do like what Mike Bloomberg did when he was mayor of New York City, the 1 million tree, goal at the end of the day of what he did in the city. So, I mean, I'm not saying 1 million trees, but let's, think about an actual number that could be feasible that you can maybe achieve and do something over the next 9 years.
Well, he also said,
Anyhow, yesterday we met with Ron Shuloff. So and I think most people know him from food waste fame, but he was the one, he and Michelle were responsible for around 2014. They did a presentation in Scarsdale. And it took them until around 2019 to actually update their code. So he was giving us, I wanted to know what were some of the pitfalls, what were some of the techniques, how did he manage to get people? Because all of the municipalities share some of the similar problems. Nobody wants you telling them what to do in their backyards. And so they all have the same thing. But what he suggested, and he stressed that, point out how we all are on the same page when it comes to certain things. We all love trees, even though we know that not everybody does. Some people are tree phobic, but make that assumption, because Scarsdale, believe it or not, I was pretty surprised, they have a 50% tree canopy. Nobody has a 50% tree canopy. That's usually the goal. It's got 40%. So they started out with that, but there's a lot of differences between their town and ours. They plant their whole updated code was really geared towards residents and private property. They already have about 100 trees going in every year on their streets in Scarsdale. So that was not even an issue, 100 trees. That was really, so they were trying to figure out, how do we encourage people to plant more trees, not to take down so many trees. If you do take them down, to replace them, whether it's in your yard or, have them replaced someplace else. And they have a fund, but it works differently than ours. They have a tree fund there, but he said that's not really a big supplier of money because the town is already paying for the municipal trees. So they do use that if somebody is, wants to take down, or if they are penalized, if they end up, violating their permit or whatever. So money will go into that tree fund, which is used for something. Usually he said that tree fund would be used if you wanted to put in a whole stand of trees in one particular place. So these were some of the things. There were differences, but we kept track of things. We wrote everything down. So there were a lot of useful ways to try to get the town on board. And I think that's really, that's really important. And, Nancy and I were talking about that education is a big piece of this, and Ron was also saying, don't push trees right after a storm. You're not going to get people on your side.
Yeah.
Because, and that's really part of it, because people are afraid. So you have to really kind of, do it strategically. So
we also have someone who's on board with their town,
their engineer.
Right.
Yes, their engineer. And one of the things that he suggested was, before you try to do anything about the tree code, to get some of the people on board and meet with them first. So, we would speak to Liz, and I've spoken to her already. But, whoever is part of that tree commission, and to try and get these people on board with this. And then you've got, and start off with things that are palatable to everybody. Everybody's okay with certain things, but, then you start getting into, where some people are having problems and issues with certain things. But if you start off with something that is okay with almost everybody, like we all love trees, we want to keep, our town looking as beautiful as we can. So those were some of the things, and as I said, it's different there. Their whole municipality is very different. But
Libby, you were going to say something?
Arlene, I think that was
Yes.
a great presentation of some of the wonderful, wonderful parts of that meeting we had with Ron, who is a wonderful guy, but he kept saying things like, of course, everybody in the town agrees that trees are important, trees are great, and you have to replace them. And the board is just really wants to do that. There's no disagreement on that point. And I was thinking,
Yeah, right.
this is an educational project for us to get involved in, and there's so many things we can do. So that's a motivation and also a tip, using some of the community-based marketing tips that we learned in the class for outreach on environmental topics. I think it was very inspirational, and also they can serve as, Ron and Michelle always make themselves available. They've written it all down. It's all accessible by us. And it seemed like the process that they used that Arlene was referring to could work very well in our municipality. Especially if we can increase the understanding in the public and everywhere on how important, critically important trees are.
Right. And one of the things that he mentioned yesterday that I thought was really worthwhile was that they did it in steps. So when they upgraded their tree code, the understanding was, we're going to give this like a 2-year chance to see, can we go further? Do we need to revise any of this? And that, I think, when you do that, it's not so final, and people are willing to say, all right, well, we'll take a look at it. If it's no good, then we'll have to, make some changes. So that, I think, he said that worked very well for them. That was really helpful. And some of the things that we need to do is to get the word out there too. So what we're also hoping to do is, and Karen and June can, include some info on this, but instead of having our tables as 3 different, committees, when we have a table, whether it's at the farmer's market or whether it's Earth Day, wherever it is, it needs to be something that covers everything. So we are hoping to have like a sustainability table, and that will cover food scrap recycling, healthy yards, promoting trees. So that would be something that, and we can take advantage of it, and we take advantage of everybody's volunteers manning these, the table. So that would be something else.
Arlene?
Yeah.
So I think you're talking about rolling out a plan, but I kind of want to rewind the tape a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
What Mitch is asking for is just, 3 to 5 fact-based key points that we all have and can show on a simple, graphic. And then really, we talk about the low-hanging fruit or the deep greens versus the slow-to-go greens. The idea is, with some basic information, we can begin to shift perceptions. So I don't even think that, we're at, how are we going to display on the tables or whatnot? Let's start with the key talking points, which should take us pretty far. I mean, I have a few of them that I put together, but didn't use at that board meeting. And I'm happy to collaborate with you to just get that content on one piece. We'll make it look great and super easy for people to understand the implications and benefits of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Help to 90% of the work.
So I loved one of the things that June said at the board work session, which was, you were talking about, I think, Healthy Yards and the trees program. And you you turned to them and looked at them at a certain point and said, trees are problem solvers. And I thought, wow, no one has, I've never heard anybody say that, but that was a wonderful thing to say. And I think if the white paper started in that direction and kept going within the limits of one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and do the things that Nancy's asked, that would be great. So I think you, Marlene, it looks like you have a lot of volunteers to help with this. And can Sue and I expect that by, let's see, 20 days from now or 18 days from now, the end of February, that we'd be able to see a draft that you could pass around to everyone in the collaborative in advance of our next meeting?
Yes.
All right, that would be great, because you know, it's amazing about the quarters of the calendar. There's another one going to be coming up fairly soon, and we're going to be going back to the board in their work session. It would be great to have this in hand when we went back there in either March or April. So we'll look forward to getting that draft by the end of the month. And then probably around that time, you'll be able to tell us what the program is called.
Yeah, we'll know that next week, Mitch. We will know that. We'll
All
have
right.
the name by
That's
next
good.
week. Yes.
All right, well, that'd be great. That would be great.
Say, Mitch, this is Jake Levitt here. Is there any role for like a tax break for if you have trees on your property? I mean, I don't know how well that works, you know, I mean.
So I heard about a program. Frank, were you telling me about this? Maybe not. Or Nick, I can't remember. I believe there is a program, I'll have to dredge this up, Jacob, where people are, big corporations, hedge funds are starting to pay people to keep trees alive on their property.
Wow.
Because the hedge fund has found a way to monetize the impact of an existing tree's ability to take GHGs out of the air. And so they can then effectively sell the benefit of your trees to people who need carbon credits. I'm not sure I spoke English just then, but it was an amazing idea. And I'll have to figure out who was talking to me about that and find out more information.
I would love that, but it also could create a problem. I've got an area behind my house that's wooded, probably the original trees, and there's probably 100 trees there. If I get paid for the trees, there goes my property tax. I guess I'd love it.
Arlene, don't you have a way of?
Yes.
Don't you have a way of determining?
Yeah, so that was one of the things, Mitch, that I was suggesting for the students to also use iTree Design. Well, one of them, then this iTree Canopy can show you what the canopy is. You know, and Ron was speaking about how he got several volunteers to pick out certain areas, and they used iTree to figure out the canopy, but also iTree Design will figure out the monetary value of a tree that you select. So if you've got a tree on your property, or even the town tree in front of a house, you just put in, you know, the diameter, the kind of tree, maybe how tall it is, and it'll tell you, you know, how much money basically you are saving by having that tree there, whether it's saving on your air conditioning, saving on flooding mitigation, you know, saving on a lot of different things. Probably I would put in mental health. I don't know if that's included, but mental health is, there have been a lot of studies on that too. But so, you know,
mental health is undervalued in this country. Come on, Arlene.
I know. Please, without my trees, my mental health is kind of on the fringes to begin with.
I'd also
I'm wondering if they would be able to do any of that. You know, Michelle volunteered to look into it, and I know Perry McKinney, she couldn't be here tonight. She asked me, she emailed me, I think it was this morning, And I sent her that information because she lives on Rocking Stone and she is on a call tonight. I don't know if there's the building. One of the committees is going on right now.
Planning board.
The planning board, right. Because she said there's a whole stand of 100-year-old oaks and maples that they want to take down. And she's like beside herself. So, this would be a way to show that it's not, and Nancy, maybe you would even know, is there a way to preserve? Are there exceptions for historic trees? She said these are 100-year-old trees.
Yeah, there's nothing in the tree law at all for any of it. It just depends on if, the planning board, it depends on the footprint of where they're building, how they're building. The planning board will definitely try and see if they can preserve those trees. If people are there and saying these trees are important to our community and our character and our street, they're definitely going to try. But if they want to build a house right where their trees are,
yeah,
they're not going to be able to preserve them.
Yeah.
But these are the kinds of things that after we get the white paper and the new name for the team, we can start to attack in the tree code. So
yes.
Mitch,
let's move on. So the next thing on our agenda is, again, strengthening community health and the Okra Town of Mamaroneck Green app. Michelle, you were here. There you are. You're right next to me.
That's me.
So we had talked about doing two things. One was we wanted to be able to have the collaborative get to the students all of the information they might need by the end of the first quarter. So we're still in time for that. And then we also wanted to talk to Joe Liberti as to what the students should be doing this spring in terms of getting the content into the app. So Michelle?
Well, that's where we are. I've been trying to get the team to complete 3 to 4 chapters so that the collaborative can read them and add their notes. I know that Frank Owens has reviewed some of it, and I think it's really helpful to read through. I think that the structure of each one of the sections, it's feeling a little redundant to me, and we may need to just change some of that structure, but there's still a lot of content that needs to go into the app in each of the categories. And the priorities for this year, they need information on each one of those in order for them to put it together. So a description of the priority would help in the goal, and then how you think the best way is for someone in the community to take the information and affect a change or a contribution. The trees are a piece that's missing that can go right in. I think the question is how big the app is and whether things are replacing other items. I think right now it can probably handle as much as we have, but we have to get over this hurdle for them to be able to finish a couple of them. I'm surprised that it's this hard, but early on when we were talking about rain barrels, they were able to put together the video and where to go to buy the pieces and how to be effective. But that's really where this group started. They wanted to do a hands-on project with infrastructure that was like the rain barrels. So they had really worked to complete all those pieces, dealing with green roofs and electric vehicles and other things is a little bit more of a challenge. So I think they may need a little bit of help. I think Frank was working on electric vehicles. I think they need a little help with solar. It'll be easier once they have completed their work to sort of put some notes on it and send it to each of you for some help. But in the very beginning, I think the priorities for this year, we need some information. So we're going to try and meet with Joe on Friday, Mitch.
Oh, what time?
I sent him a note and left it up to him.
Okay.
You know, he's coming back in. He had a short leave for a personal situation, and so he's coming back in, and I think that will make it easier.
Okay, yeah, let me know. I think probably the afternoon's better, but if we can organize a call, maybe you and Joe and Frank and I, and just see where things are and figure out how we can get some priorities set so that everybody, because the most important, a very important thing is the students should feel when they're working this hard that they're going to succeed at something, and we're all going to be really happy about it. So.
Right. And I've also asked them to put together the cost of continuing this after the 2 years. The cost for the first 2 years is covered. And then there's a membership fee that the collaborative or the town will probably cover. I don't think it's very much, but I asked them to outline that and to write a real introduction to the app before you just open it up and get in there.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Michelle, you had sent around about 2 months ago where they were and you asked for comments. And that was very good. There was no feedback. I have not seen anything since. I don't know if you're sending things out to like Arlene and Karen or what's going on, but we've had no feedback, which is understandable. I'm working with Okra, so I'm familiar.
Well,
are you intending to
they've spread themselves out a little bit, so they have more information on more pieces than they had a couple of months ago. But they need to sort of put their nose to the grindstone on this.
Sounds like studying for finals.
Time to send out another draft to the various.
We can send out another draft. 2 months ago there was no replies, I don't think. Right, so it's not easy to edit it or to put information in there. You really have to get into Google Docs and just make some notes in the margin what you need more information about.
Why don't we have a call on Friday and then we'll figure out where to go from here. So Mark, that'll be one of the things we'll talk about on Friday is where they are, and is another round of comments useful on any particular section that they're working on, et cetera, et cetera.
So I guess a PDF is really the best way to send it out, right? Not Google Docs, right?
Yes, that way everybody can comment.
Michelle, when we, Mark Manley and I both went over the section on transportation, I guess it was, I can't remember what we called it, green transportation and buildings, but we combined the two together. I think we had some really good content in, but one of the things that I was curious to know about was be helpful to kind of see everything. And I don't know if this is possible, but everything kind of like on a big sheet so you could see how what we had done compared with another section, And one of the things that we were trying to do, or I was trying to do, was, if there were things that people could, quickly take action on, like the e-bikes was one item. And I think that it would be okay to send people to the 2 bike stores, and because they're, so it helps, their businesses too. And I think solar gets a little tricky because there's not like 1 or 2 solar companies you can send to, but it would be kind of interesting just to see how it all lays out across all the different categories to make sure everything's kind of consistent. And maybe you're doing that already, but.
Well, they're not actually, it's really in sections, but maybe we could figure out how to put out almost like a poster of what all the pieces are so that you could see all of it. I thought that I've asked them to put together places that are accessible for people to be able to go to make whatever they want to do happen. I thought the bike stores was a really good idea. And We'll have to talk about it with Joe.
Okay.
We lost Mitch up there.
Nope, here he is. I'm back. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so I think the last of the main agenda items we have for this evening is minimize waste. And it's the food scrap program. And so Karen and Mark, I think you're going to give us the update.
Yeah, sure. So it's just minimize waste now. I think we've taken out fight hunger.
Yeah, I don't know how that snuck in there.
That's all right. Just wanted to clarify in case people were wondering. But anyway, so yeah, our goal is really increasing participation in food scrap recycling, right? To divert food scraps from incineration. So we are working on really improving our outreach to people, even in these COVID times, to change behavior, to get more people on board, to participate in this food scrap recycling program. So one of the things that we recently have is this sticker, that Laura Wortkin and Nicole Gassman worked on, which Sue sent a message out to the collaborative member volunteers on that we have 1,000 of these stickers that say we compost recycle food scraps, and it identifies Village of Larchmont, Town of Mamaroneck, that we do this. So we are trying to encourage residents who do food scrap recycling or who do composting to proudly display this in a visible location in the upper portion of their garbage can or on their car, so that people start, becoming more aware that this, what is normally an invisible activity, is really, it's more visible, and people start realizing that, oh, this is what's happening in our town. I should be doing this too. It's, and just make this part of the norm. And so we are trying to get these stickers out. This is an opportunity for us also to, reach out. We have planned, Sue has already announced that, you can pick it up. So collaborative members, who are doing food scrap recycling, you're welcome to go to the town center to pick up stickers for yourself, to help to start spreading spreading this practice to your neighbors, encouraging your neighbors and other passersby. So please go ahead and do that. But we also have Judy and Bonnie have been working on days that they would like in March, 2 weeks when we would like to actually hand out these stickers to food scrap recycling participants at Maxwell Avenue Recycling Center. So they have identified March 13th and March 20th, 2 Saturdays in March. That will be after the winter break, but before the spring break, when they would like to have volunteers there to hand out and also, explain how to display these stickers to sort of spread the word. And that would be an opportunity to potentially to get more people who go to Maxwell Avenue, because it's a very popular place on Saturdays. So that's opportunity to let people who go there anyway, who aren't participating, to let them know, hey, you haven't started this yet. Now's your chance. We can get you a kit. You can buy a kit here, right? So there are multiple purposes that could, be had, not just in terms of distributing the stickers, but also just get more people on board. So they have identified those 2 days. We, obviously need to check with Nancy and Steve that those dates are okay, March 13th and March 20th. And they would also, we're also hoping to do some weekdays. So we are, going to just make sure we have got enough volunteers and confirmed, then send those dates to Nancy and Steve to check whether they are okay with that.
So Karen, so as we're handing these out or people are picking them up, are we taking note of people's names and addresses to create a registry?
Well, so that's what we were hoping to do as well. Like, okay, we can do that at Maxwell, right? But I think Sue brought up a good point that it may not be so easy to do that at the town center. I don't know how many people have gone there, you know, because of, you know, well, Sue might be able to explain, you know, that may not be so easy, like for those who go to the town center to put down their names.
Right.
Really?
So yeah. So what I had suggested is right now the only people that know about it are the collaborative members. So we don't need your names. But when we put it out on Nextdoor and Facebook, we're just going to say, if you'd like one of these stickers, please come to town center and ask for Sue. As simple as that. Then I'll come down and I can get their name. You know, we can't have the person at the front desk doing that. He's not a, you know,
Right.
he's not going to advocate for the program. So we'll just leave it at that and hope that they come and they ask for me, and I'll come down with my little clipboard and try and get a name and an address and an email address.
And then at Maxwell, will we do something similar?
Yeah, when the volunteers are there, then we'll definitely, you know, try to get down people's names and contact information. You know, the thing is also is that, you know, of course, ideally we'd like to put these stickers in the food waste kits as well, you know, like new food waste kits. And, you know, there's instruction at the back of the sticker that, you know, there's a sticker at the back of the sticker that says, "Thank you for recycling your food scraps. Please place this sticker on the upper portion of your trash can, not the lid, or on your car to help spread the practice." So that anybody who gets the sticker will have the instructions already at the back. It's on a shipping label, so that they know what to do with the sticker. So, you know, we'd like to also put this in the food waste kit, right? So the only thing is I have to figure out is whether, you know, the sanitation staff, whether, you know, Frank would be willing to hand out these stickers or not. And, or whether, you know, maybe we put them in the kits for them, you know. So we can figure out those details with Sue about that. But yeah, but, you know, but in the past, I mean, we haven't been able to get the sanitation staff to get down the names of the people who buy a food waste kit. You know, that seems to be a problem in terms of, you know, that's why we aren't able to get, you know, information about who are the people who buy food waste kits and get their contact information. We've only been able to do it for the people that volunteers have been able to sell kits to. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to get the sanitation staff to do that. That has been a big, and, you know, it's been sort of like out of my scope.
Right. So, but with the pandemic, are people still regularly going and interacting with the sanitation staff and buying kits? I thought that we were primarily home delivering them.
Both.
Well, we were trying, we you know, had been advertising this through Nextdoor, thanks to Sue and, you know, Nicole composing messages. But, you know, really since December, we haven't gotten any responses, even though, you know, Sue put out a new post early January, about mid-January after the holidays, but we haven't gotten anybody requesting for home delivery. So, and I don't know how many people have bought at Maxwell, to be honest, because we don't get that information.
You know what would be interesting, Karen, to find out? It would be interesting to find out in the village of Mamaroneck, where people pay $10 a month to have it picked up, how much more they've sold, let's say, in the last few months. I'm sure Ellen could tell us in the village of Mamaroneck. In other words, how much of a difference it makes in getting people to sign up that they're paying for that. Because I think ASAP is thinking of expanding.
Yes, and yeah, our Okra students is hoping to actually become a chapter, you know. Yeah.
Right.
But okay, I can find out from Ellen about how many more people. But I know that they keep track of it. You know, they've been keeping track of participants and all that, the ASAP staff.
Right. They're selling the kits at the farmer's market in Mamaroneck Village that's going on at the harbor. And currently there's about 100 subscribers to ASAP. But there are many more dropping off of Fayette, and people who come to the farmer's market, you have to be a resident of the village to buy a kit. They will not sell a kit. They're not supposed to sell a kit to a Larchmont resident at this time. Right, Karen? That's the way it's being handled. They're only selling kits.
to residents of Village of Mamaroneck. But
Correct.
on the other hand, we have information, we put it
Correct.
out for students about the home delivery service if they are a resident of Larchmont or town of Mamaroneck. They've got an email address, they've got information that they can reach out to.
So they can reach out.
Yeah.
The other thing that we're planning to do, Mitch, is we'd like to propose tonight as one of our big outreaches is the proposed compost give back, as we've done in the past three years. We have 3 dates that are proposed to pick one based on the town's availability, and April 24th, May 1st, or May 15th. Again, that's April 24th, May 1st, and May 15th. Those dates avoid holidays. They avoid Mother's Day. So if we could get back, we can't advertise or do anything until
What are the dates for, Mark?
What?
What are the dates for?
For compost give back. In other words, where the town supplies compost and residents either dig or sanitation people dig. It would be held the last 3 years it's been at Maxwell. Last year it was at the lower level of Maxwell. It was very well received. And of course, we're somewhat talking to the choir. Those people who are coming to pick up compost are also people who are gardening and also will tend to be more environmental. I should mention to you, Sue, that there's a number of people who have switched from composting for the town to compost in their backyard. So one of the things that, ultimately, with the town outreach is to find out how many people are recycling, how many people are composting, because you really have no idea. And that brings up another question. The big sell on compost now within the county is that it can save the town money. And I'm wondering, when is the town going to switch over to bringing the food waste to suburban? Originally, I think it was planned, in January, but it has not taken place yet. So I'm just wondering, as an update, can maybe Nancy give us an update?
So you're talking about having the food waste taken over to suburban rather than them picking it up.
Right.
Yeah,
So
we have been struggling with some existential issues in the Sanitation Commission, and that has put this discussion on hold a little bit.
Okay.
So we've got to figure out, we just finished and passed a law to make curbside collection permanent. We're now instituting the exceptions to that for people 70 years and older and those with disabilities. And we are talking with the Village of Larchmont about restructuring the commission into an expanded garbage district in the town of Mamaroneck. That is a huge change and discussion, and we are really kind of mired in it and stuck in it right now. So until we get that figured out, it's going to be hard to focus on the other, but that should be resolved. Well, let's see, it's February. Yeah, it should be resolved really in the next few weeks. And then we can focus on, how to take advantage of the county's
reduced rates
and suburban's changes.
Okay, thank you.
So, well, while we're all here, Mark, and you just mentioned it, and going back to what Karen was saying. So between the two of you, you were saying that on 2 Saturdays in March, we're hoping to have people at Maxwell to help, hand out the stickers and popularize the program. And at one Saturday in April and 2 Saturdays in May. We're
No,
going to have
only
people at Maxwell.
Only one of the three.
Only one of the three?
Yes.
Didn't we do it for more than one weekend last year?
Oh, yes, because there was a little left over that had to be gotten rid of.
Ah.
So that probably will be the case as well. I mean, since that's happened the past 3 years, that
Right.
the aim is of course to distribute it all, but then typically there's always leftover, and so there's normally a follow-up day. So normally it is 2 days.
Yeah, but last year, the follow-up basically went to Sheldrake. It was a relatively small amount.
Okay. Oh,
Didn't we do 2
no,
days last year?
No, we did. There were 2 days, though. Mark.
And then we had some left over, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm going with this is maybe since you guys are focused on increasing participation in community outreach, maybe there's a way of connecting the dots between the stickers and the give back. Maybe there's some extra other Saturdays where we could get some volunteers going to kind of fill in some of those blanks. Obviously, if it's a school holiday, nobody's necessarily going to be there. But to have a little bit more of a consistent presence.
I think that, I mean, I would just to let you know also that, LEC is also planning an Earth Day on April 17th, where they've, that's another opportunity where we can actually be doing outreach and on the food scrap recycling, and of course the other initiatives as well. And I think once the Larchmont Farmers Market resumes on April 24th, then that will be a time when consistently our sustainability initiatives can, be, where we can have a presence to do regular community outreach on our different sustainability initiatives. That'll be April 24th, starting April 24th, when the Larchmont Farmers Market resumes.
So this came up earlier, and since we're all here, let's talk about it. We've had a couple of different instances where folks are advocating to have a presence at the farmers market again. I remember a year and a half ago or something like that, we were worried that we weren't going to be able to staff that very well. People were going to have burnout. Are we all rejuvenated by the concept that by April there won't be any snow left, and therefore we're not going to worry about volunteers? What do you think, Karen?
Well, if we have the NHS students, and hopefully we'll have more volunteers. I think, I am hopeful that we will be able to get more volunteers this time around. But, obviously we're still in COVID times, so we also have to, sort of
I guess
manage that. But I mean, obviously they're doing it at Harbor. The thing is that, the Harbor Island Park Farmers Market, they have students there every Saturday. They've got a table there, and even it's crazy cold out there. If they can do it, I mean, we surely can. The weather's gonna be much better in April.
I guess the question, Karen, really is, will to get volunteers at the farmers market from the Honor Society is a no-brainer. To get them at Maxwell is a question whether or not the town would allow that. Because they have about you said, Mitch, 100 and something students that are looking
143, I think Amelia said, or some number like that.
Yeah. So if we can have honor students, if they can do the outreach at the village, Harbor Island Farmers Market, I think they could also do it at Maxwell if they'd be permitted.
So Nancy, is there any issue there?
What are you looking to do at Maxwell?
In other words, when someone comes to recycle plastics and metal, is to educate them with regard that there's also food scrap recycling. There's a healthy art. It could be a brochure that's handed to them or picked up at a table.
By a volunteer?
By a volunteer.
I think that it's possible, except for Saturdays is the tough day. That's the day where it seems to be, the social event of the season for some reason there at the Maxwell Avenue Recycling Center. And so there's often a terrible jam up of cars and people, and it's, they actually have to call the police sometimes to actually direct traffic. So I can't imagine
How
doing
about Monday through Friday?
That I
after
think you
school?
could probably do.
No, but that's not going to work for students, right?
No.
Don't forget. Yeah. Saturday is when it works. But then, like Nancy said, it's a very challenging situation.
Right.
So I think that's the challenge that we have, is that that's when everybody goes, but at the same time, it becomes very stressful. And, of course, the priority for sanitation then is to make sure everybody's safe and gets out. Everybody, so that is a challenging situation that we have to figure out if we want to distribute the stickers at that time. And we, it's.
So
Well, we can talk about it and figure out how to try to get someone there.
Yeah.
So I think Karen and Mark, obviously the area where all the recycling happens, that's wildly congested, but people have to come into Maxwell and they're usually not going more than 40 miles an hour. And then by the time they're ready to leave, they're not going more than 40 miles an hour. And maybe, at the bottom of the hill on the way in and out of the gate, there's an opportunity to do something. And if it takes a banner, let's get a banner made. And if it takes a card table, I've got one in my basement.
That was one question I had. Nancy, do you think you could put up on the Maxwell building where the guys sit up on their perch below there? Could you put a banner or like a poster? Because I was thinking just like a poster with a picture of Karen's sticker, and you just have a big, say, free, and you have an arrow pointing to a bucket. So if people are going in and out of there, they drop off their stuff, they see something they free, they look over, they see the sticker, they grab a sticker, and then they get out of there. And maybe on the back of the sticker, it says, please, register with us, call us or however we're going to figure out how to register. But that way, it just is easy, don't have extra people. An idea.
Our idea, Frank, at our meeting was to put up, one of these boxes like you see at a trailhead where it's weatherproof. It has a top. You reach in, it has a poster in front that's laminated or maybe, in plastic, which basically says if you're food recycling, and it could go near the food recycling area because that's as opposed to the building itself. So as they're actually dumping it, they can read the poster in the box.
Yeah, the only thing about the building is that if it's a windy day, you might get it, you might be more secure on the building. But yeah, right next to the recycling would be good too.
If it's a box, if it's a poster, there really isn't a place by the bins unless it goes up on the fence.
Maybe on the fence.
No, well, we can, we've talked about that. We can put them up on the fence.
Question, Mark, is now the time to, did you say you're going to approach Steve to see which one of those dates?
I just made that a suggestion, and I assume Sue or Nancy will bring it up.
Well, maybe I think between you and Karen, can somebody write an email to Nancy, Sue, and Steve?
Yes,
and just,
we can do that. We'll
give
do
us
that.
the dates, give everybody the dates officially.
I can do it if you want me to, Mark, since we were working on this
That's
together.
fine. That's fine.
Whatever you guys want.
And then note that you,
that'll be great.
Right, note that you want two weekends.
Okay. What should I say, Mark, do you think? We're going to aim for one, and then we'll have, or Karen, what do you think? If we'll aim for one, but if there's still some left over, what would the second choice be? Should I say that?
Well, Steve will then, it depends what day is best. I'd go for one, and then we'll deal with it.
Agreed. Okay.
Okay, great. All right, and then so maybe Karen from your team, and then reach out to everybody else, please. Let's put a plan together by the end of at least a draft by the end of this month for what we would like to think about in terms of the farmers market when it reopens toward the end of April. You know, what do we want to do there? What are we going to need? What are some of the people requirements? All of that sort of thing. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. And it sounds like this is going to be you know, this is not just going to be food scrap recycling, as Arlene was saying. You know, it's going to be really, you know, what are the sustainability initiatives we would like to do outreach on? And, you know, as June said, you know, what are some talking points that we can provide that we can quickly give people so that people understand very quickly what are the key things.
I think we want to talk about everything we've talked about this evening. We want to talk about trees as problem solvers. We want to talk about no-brain ideas to save money on your electrical bill, and OMG, have Con Ed pay you. You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This has got to be an all collaborative thing.
Mitch, this may or may not be like in previous years. We may be outside the farmers market.
Why?
Because of COVID. They don't want people.
I don't see it, Mark.
The lines go through the main aisle. They have to approve it. The farmer.
Well, yeah, I've talked to Mark. I've had a preliminary conversation with Dakota. I called the Down to Earth market.
Right.
And I spoke to Dakota. She said that she didn't think that would be a problem. You know, I mean, she needs to confirm it. You know, obviously they're allowing a table at Harbor Island Park. But now I was telling her that we may just want to, you know, probably do it from the start of the farmers market until the end of the school year, you know, calendar year, as we did last year. And then because we have problems getting volunteers during the summer, right? And she was saying that that would actually probably work because then in July is when they need more vendor space. So, so I mean, she doesn't think conceptually. I mean, she doesn't think that it's a problem to include us, but you know, she just needs to confirm it. And obviously, there are other competing vendors, and they need to just have more spacing between tables now because of COVID. So, but we will work this out, no problem.
So, yeah, Karen, if you need any help with that, just tell us.
Okay.
We can bring higher powers to bear.
Okay, good. Now, can I just bring up one last idea about community outreach, about food scrap recycling, and also potentially on other initiatives, really, is that at our last food scrap recycling meeting, we were talking about the idea of reaching out to real estate realtors and providing them information, like providing a kit to them of our different sustainability initiatives that they could provide to new residents, so that residents could see what are the things that this village does, and so that I can be part of. It just seemed to make sense that if we can give something to realtors to be able to provide to residents, to help them to assimilate, to get on board to the, you know, doing the practices that our town does, it could really help us. And Laura Workin has, she's the one who created the sticker. She has offered to help create a brochure or something like that that we could provide to realtors. So that's one idea that we'd like to explore as another way to reach out to new residents, you know?
So we've talked about this in years past and then never did anything. But if Laura is interested in working on this, it's a good opportunity again to let the new residents know about, you know, in some clever, punchy, fun way, all of the things we're doing.
Okay,
yes,
so you think that makes sense? Is it worthwhile to explore this?
I'm sorry?
So yeah, you're saying this is worthwhile to do? Even though you've,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I was just going to say to Karen's point and your suggestion, Mitch, that one of the things is to talk to the realtors and use this community-based, you know, marketing techniques on green initiatives to talk them into it too. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, to help let them understand that being a a tree-friendly community and a green community is a wonderful asset for Larchmont Mamaroneck going forward. And so that they start to buy into this as something that makes our community fantastic. And while we're, writing the brochures for the newcomers or people who are, moving house, we're also bringing the realtors on board so that they understand that this is something that's a huge asset for them and
Right.
us and everybody.
Sounds like a one-pager to me. So yeah, Karen, have Laura give me a ring or, an email, and I'll start talking to her a little bit about that.
Okay.
But it's exactly what you're saying, Libby. We do a lot of different things. We don't want to shortchange them. Yes, Sasha.
And we've been talking about this exact same thing in our committee as well. And in fact, I'm blanking on her name, but we had a lovely person from Houlihan Lawrence speak at our leaf blower ban, leaf blower, law code change presentation to Board of Trustees. And so, we certainly, I'm sure, between our two committees can have a couple connections to real estate agents where we could really push this forward. I think it's super important. I can't believe we don't have this yet. They should have a one-pager with all of our tri-municipal initiatives and how to click in, how to buy your kit, what the recycling days are, or where to go, etc.
Right.
Mitch, can I just throw in one comment? Because our community is tremendously appealing. I don't know that the challenge here is building more appeal for Larchmont and Mamaroneck as much as it is building quality of life for residents, so that they understand what we're doing and what's available to do and how to make it easy for them to do it and enjoy doing it. It really should be uplifting and motivating. And, we have great sales. It's just, I don't think people know these basics that we talk about at our meetings and, we talk about among ourselves. So I think it would just be a great, informational piece.
For everybody.
Yeah, exactly. For everybody. Because property sells here, but then once people get in, they don't know what to do, and we can help with that. And that's really satisfaction and quality of life, on all counts.
It's
Great.
not that they don't have good sales in Larchmont. It's that I don't know if the realtors have bought into the whole notion of greenness. Some of them have more than others, but it's always, they are a group that we haven't spoken to, I think, in a deliberate sort of, outreach sort of way.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Just about 8 o'clock. Sue, when is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is March 9th.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of things. Sue and I will make a better job of getting our notes out earlier with the action items so that people can be reminded and stay on course. And then, good. And all right, any last comments from anyone? Nancy? Oh, yes, Michelle? Michelle, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm reading in the notes that Arlene has written a wonderful brochure on trees with illustrations. Can you send that out to us?
It's a one-pager, just exactly what we were talking about, but Arlene already did it and it's wonderful.
Can you send that out?
It's not a brochure, and she's.
It's an ode. It's a poem.
Yes.
Oh, the poem.
Can you send that out to us?
Yeah, I can send it out.
Great.
It was good.
Arlene, what we want to do is get Laura or somebody else to help us get the photo into the layout with the 10 points. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. I think, yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else? Jacob, thank you for joining us. Have you joined us before? So give us 2 minutes about yourself.
He's also in the notes. Here.
Yeah, I just said in the notes, I lived in Mamaroneck my whole life, and I see trees going down way more than they come up, and I'm trying to be environmental about it. I just bought a property next to my parents, so I have control over 2 acres to be environmental with,
Wow.
And you know, I'm looking forward to working with you guys. I
Well,
never
that's
got into public advocacy stuff before, so
Good. Where do you live more exactly?
8 Stonewall Lane.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for your service to the town of Mamaroneck.
All right.
Very appreciated.
Great. Have a good evening.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.